a litigator, I will definitely be watching as much of the coverage as I can. Unfortunately, I have clients that require me to focus on their cases, so I won't be able to watch everything. That being said, if there is something that I don't discuss, because I will come back and discuss things that I think are important, relevant, or that I just, have some background in and can offer my 2 cents. But if I miss something, or if you have a question, or you want me to speak about something, definitely let me know. I'm happy to engage in this and get this conversation going. I nerd out on stuff like this, but I'm also very vested, as many of us are, in the outcome of this case. It's going to be historical one way or the other. So we just gotta wait it out and see what happens. It's in the jury's hands right now. And yeah, so everyone be safe, keep your heads up. There's a lot going on. Part 2, as promised, let's make this a multi-part series discussing the Chauvin murder trial. Yeah, why don't we? First up, opening arguments. But before we get into the specific openings that occurred on day 1 of the Chauvin murder trial, let's just talk about opening statements in general. First, they are so crucially important because this is the first opportunity that the attorneys have to present their case and lay out their theory to the jury. It's a preview story, but it's a preview because nothing has been presented. This is day 1 of the trial. It's the first thing. That's why you'll hear phrases like the evidence will show, you will learn, you will hear, you will see, such and such will come here and they will testify about A, B, C. But credibility is key here, because if an attorney says you will learn, you will see, such and such will come here and they will testify about A, B, and C, and that does not happen, the same way us women can remember things from 4 years ago with such specificity, the jurors do too, I promise you. And if you don't do it, it'll create holes and the other side will fill those in. Part 3. So first up is the state. They get the first, the last word. They sit the closest to the jury. They have the burden of proof. That's how it goes. There's no flipping of the coin, head, tails, none of that. They go first and they get the last word at the end too. So Attorney Blackwell gave the opening statement on behalf of the state, and I thought he did a fantastic job. Here are some of the reasons why. 1, I thought his presentation was very good. He was prepared, he was organized, the way he presented the, facts. You have to give the jury and everyone policy and the rules and things that we have to know with regard to standards. So he defined things when it was necessary, but he didn't bombard us with a bunch of references to different rules, and he kept it simple, I think. I also think that he told the story very well. This is a story that we've all heard. So we don't want to hear a timeline on this day, this happened at this minute. No, he started off, got right into it, and focused on what was most important. Part 4. So hard to keep these under a minute. I'm trying here. I'm going to try to wrap up the state right now. 2 more points. Could go on and on. But 1, I like the fact that he used the roadmap. Well, not that he used the roadmap, because we all use roadmaps, but what he said. He said he had 2 objectives. Attorney Blackwell said his first objective was to ensure that the defendant got a fair trial. Well, I mean, duh. But, and then that's the defense's job. That's what he's hired. Oh, so you gonna do everybody's job and you gonna, okay. Ethical. I like what you did there. You know what I'm saying? Because that's something you already have to do. But by presenting it that way, it's like, don't you guys worry. This is the kind of person I am. My number 1 objective is to make sure that he gets a fair trial. So don't worry about that. Number 2. His objective was that he was going to bring evidence to the jurors. Well, yeah, duh. But by him saying that, it just leaves such a good taste in their mouth. I like what you did. Part 5, still discussing the state's opening from the Chauvin murder trial. There was just a lot there, right? So, but the main, probably the most important thing that I took from the opening and the highlight of it for me were the themes. So I feel like you gotta have a good theme, at least one. You got to. It's important. But you may not recognize the main theme from the opening. It may develop as trial goes on. Like, for example, the world famous, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. That wasn't developed until, right then, basically. But 2 themes I picked up on. 1, 9 minutes, 29 seconds. Obvious. Very obvious. We're going to hear that over and over and over again. But number 2, Chauvin betrayed the badge. That's super important because that's going to separate Blue Lives Matter folks from white supremacists. We might see it together, but some of them think that there's a divide. Well, we're going to see. Part 6, now moving on to the defense's opening statement. So some of you may notice while the state was giving their opening, you saw the two defense attorneys there, and one was like vigorously taking notes, and the other one was just, listening, looking over some stuff, maybe taking a note here or there. It was obvious to me which attorney for the defense was going to be doing the opening. You can, as the defense, prepare your opening, but you have to be able to pivot, move, and be quick on your feet, because you're responding to what the state says and you don't want to miss anything. So that's why the other attorney was taking vigorous notes, and your team is important. They work together. So if he misses anything, then he can come through and be like, oh, you need to say, whatever. So that's just an added point. I did hear a couple comments where people were saying that the defense did not do a good job. I kind of disagree. I don't think the presentation or the performance was as good. I mean, my performance would have been much better, darling. Part 7. So I left off part 6 saying that my performance would have been better. That's a fact. But to anyone wondering how I'm referencing an opening statement as a performance, don't get mad at me. That's the truth. Listen, trial gets dramatic, and there definitely is a theatrical aspect to trial. In any presentation, you want to look good, you want to sound good, you want to present well. Don't be mad at me. That's just facts, baby. But anyways, about the defense's opening statement, let's just focus on the substance, okay? So he absolutely discussed the standards and policies that were relevant to Chauvin's defense and that are going to be, presented throughout the trial, like load and go. I never knew what that was, but that's relevant. But we know the focal point was George Floyd's drug use. Obviously, because they're going to say, or they are saying, that was the cause of death, that it was related to the drug. Part 8, and this will be the final point, because that's the obvious reason that they're talking about his criminal history, background, doing drugs, his drug use that day. But what I think some people may have missed, and this is why I think that the defense didn't do a bad job in their opening, is because, in my opinion, they presented it in such a way that if you agree that George Floyd was high, a drug abuser, a criminal, that he was resisting, that he was combative, all of these things that they laid out in their story, in their preview, then if you feel that way, if that's what you think, then that means that Derek Chauvin was not guilty, and or that he was justified in his actions. And those two are not one and the same. They do not go together. That is not 2 + 2 then 4. No,